Good morning, Petra. Thank you for giving me the floor. I'm the one chairing this session of this morning. So let's start now by giving you an overview of the biography of Professor Inza Koné. Professor Inza Koné is a full professor of conservation biology at the Université Félix Houphouët-Boigny in Abidjan, in Côte d'Ivoire. His research focused on natural resource management and the conservation of large mammal species, particularly primates. He integrates ecology, economics, culture to empower rural communities and promote sustainable conservation practices. Since 2018, Professor Koné has served as the General Director of the Swiss Center for Scientific Research in Côte d'Ivoire, becoming, by the way, the first Ivorian to hold this prestigious position. Throughout his career, Professor Inza Koné has received numerous national and international awards, including the 29 Future for Nature Award, Netherlands, the 2012 Whitley Award for Nature Conservation, UK, the 2015 National Research Award, Côte d'Ivoire, the 2021 Presidential Award from the International Primatological Society, and the 2023 Rolex Award for Enterprise. He has also been honored as a Commander of the Order of Merit of National Education in Côte d'Ivoire, his country of origin. Professor Inza Koné is an active member of several professional organizations. He has held key leadership roles, including President of the African Primatological Society since 2017. He's also the Vice President of the African section of IUCN Primate Specialist Group and a member of various committees within the International Primatological Society. He is also a member of the IUCN EPO Specialist Group and served as the president of the Expert Evaluator Group of the Green List of Protected Area in Côte d'Ivoire. Professor Koné has authored over 120 publications on primatology, conservation, behavioral ecology, and environmental education, contributing significantly to the advancing of this field. So I think you will agree with me that Professor Inza Koné is the right person to lead this session of the DAAD Lecture Series for this morning. So now let's start giving him the floor for his presentation entitled Community Empowerment for Forest Conservation, the Role of Transdisciplinary Research. Professor Inza Koné, the floor is yours now for your presentation. Thank you. Open your mic, please.
Thank you, Professor Ngolo, and thank you, DAAD, for inviting me to be part of this lecture series. So, as you said, the presentation will be about community empowerment for forest conservation, focusing on how transdisciplinary research can contribute to this endeavor. I have some technical issues working now. Okay.
Yeah,
so forests play a crucial role in climate mitigation. This is well established because of the actor as carbon sinks, absorbing large amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. However, this natural balance is being threatened by the currently observed alarming rates of deforestation throughout the world, leading to increased greenhouse gas emission and loss of biodiversity. In this context, community empowerment is more and more viewed as key to reversing the trend of forest degradation for the benefits of climate and biodiversity. Transdisciplinary research is instrumental to this because transdisciplinary research will bridge, I would say, the gaps between scientific research and community action. This presentation will be about a case study of community-based conservation of a Tanwe forest in southeastern corner of Côte d'Ivoire. This is a primate conservation project. The presentation will be structured around 4 different points beside this short introduction. So I'll start by saying a few words about primate diversity in Côte d'Ivoire, and then I will present the Tanwe forest community-based conservation project. I'll say a few words about the outcomes of the project, and I will now demonstrate how transdisciplinary research contributed in empowering local communities to achieve the different successes that have been achieved in the framework of this project. Côte d'Ivoire is a biodiversity hotspot because it is located in the middle of the Upper Guinean biodiversity hotspot, covering the coastal forest of West Africa. So the middle of the Upper Guinean biodiversity hotspot is the Sassandra River, located in Côte d'Ivoire. So you can distinguish Upper Guinea West and Upper Guinea East as compared to the position of the Sassandra River. So this position of Côte d'Ivoire in the regional biodiversity hotspot confers to the country a high diversity of habitats and then a high level of biodiversity, including primate diversity. Indeed, we have in Côte d'Ivoire 22 primate species, which makes of us the most diverse country in West Africa in terms of primate biodiversity after Nigeria, which is much bigger than Côte d'Ivoire. The 22 species that we find in Côte d'Ivoire include 4 critically endangered species, 5 endangered ones, 3 vulnerable ones, 5 near threatened species, and 5 least concerned species, which means that 55% of the primates of Côte d'Ivoire are threatened, which is very close to the global average, which is 60% of threatened primates. Southwestern Côte d'Ivoire and southeastern Côte d'Ivoire, so west and south of Sassandra River, are characterized by very distinctive features. In southwestern Côte d'Ivoire, you find some large forest blocks, like the Tai National Park, which is the largest evergreen forest under protection in West Africa. And we also find long-term research projects in this Tai National Park, including the Tai Chimpanzee Project and the Tai Monkey Project. This region also attracts large donors, including big international NGOs and bilateral cooperation, which is not the case in South Central and Southeastern Côte d'Ivoire, where you have exacerbated threats to biodiversity, because it is in this region that you find the biggest cities of Côte d'Ivoire, including Abidjan, the capital. It is in this region that you find the most developed road infrastructures and the largest oil palm or cocoa plantations in the world or in Africa. So biodiversity is really an exacerbated threat. And this is also the case of primates. And this region has hardly been the focus of any conservation or research project before we started. Primate habitats is generally threatened in Côte d'Ivoire through deforestation. We have in Côte d'Ivoire one of the highest deforestation rates in the world. Since we got our independence in 1960, the country lost 90% of its regional forest cover. So between 1990 and 2000, we would lose 480,000 hectares every year. And between 2000 and 2015, we would lose 95,000 hectares per year, not as a result of conservation measures, but because there was almost nothing left to be destroyed. Forest fragmentation is widespread throughout the country. You cannot find any forest block anymore. The largest forest you will find in most regions of Côte d'Ivoire would have a maximum of 10 hectares. So you have many more small fragments of 2 hectares or even less. The drivers of deforestation in Côte d'Ivoire are many. Direct drivers include agricultural expansion, accounting for 62% of deforestation in the country, followed by logging, followed by infrastructure expansion, followed by bushfire and other mining activities. The indirect, the underlying factors of deforestation are economic factors, because it is more rewarding for people to cut their forests and replace them by cocoa plantation or palm plantation and so on. This is followed by institutional, I would say, factors like the crisis that we experience in the country. They are also accounted for deforestation. Demographic factors follow, and then technological factors, because people need to practice agriculture differently. Primates are threatened as a result of deforestation and poaching. So primate fauna is being dwindled throughout the country. We lost 90% of our chimpanzee population in less than 20 years. And several other primate species are being exterminated from most forest areas of their historical distribution range. This is the case of Miss Waldron's red colobus. This monkey has not been sighted by scientists in the wild since 1978. The last time it was sighted by scientists was in Ghana, and now we believe that a small population should be remained in southeastern Côte d'Ivoire. First with that, there was a first alert given by the very first Primate Conservation Action Plan by the IUCN Primate Specialist Group, which recommended to investigate southeastern and south central Côte d'Ivoire to identify top priority sites for primate conservation, and also to study the faunal transition around the Sassandra River. In the following 10 years, almost nothing was done, except a national census of Western chimpanzee by Hoppe Dominique in 1991, which confirmed the lack of interest for these areas. Then there was a revised version of the African Primate Conservation Action Plan in 1996, and it was recommended to follow the previous recommendation, especially by conducting surveys to find the runaway guinon, the white-napped mangabe, and Miss Waldron's red colobus in south central and southeastern Côte d'Ivoire. But once again, not much was done in the next 10 years, except a series of surveys by Scott Melrose and collaborators, and they recommended that the status of protected forests of Eastern Côte d'Ivoire is upgraded. And there was very, very pessimistic about the fate of non-protected forests located in the extreme southeast of the country. Then in 2004, I stepped in with my team, and following that, we created the RASAPSI program, standing for Research and Action for the Protection of Primates in Côte d'Ivoire. This is the very first long-term primate research and conservation program in southeastern Côte d'Ivoire, so east of the Sassandra River. What we did consisted in investigating most areas of the historical range of these three species, Miss Waldron red colobus, the runaway guinon, and the white-napped mangabe. So we investigated 10 different sites in south central Côte d'Ivoire and 8 different sites in south eastern Côte d'Ivoire. in different series of surveys. What we found confirmed habitat destruction. So this is a photo of a plantation inside the Marawi National Park. Inside the same park, we saw the technique used by farmers. So they would cut the industry, plant cocoa and so on, and try to kill native trees by putting fire at their bases to kill them progressively. So from far, you may see that there is a good forest there, but inside this forest is dying and being replaced by cocoa plantations. This is a sign of chainsaw milling in the Tanwe A forest in the southeastern corner of Côte d'Ivoire. Poaching is also widespread. So we saw daggers being smoked at the close periphery of the Marawi National Park. And this is a photo of the carcass of the white-napped mangabe, a critically endangered primate being sold close to the Azani National Park. And this was our first sighting of green monkeys in the coastal zone of Côte d'Ivoire. Green monkeys are supposed to be savanna monkeys, and the southern part of Côte d'Ivoire is the forest zone. So this was the first sighting of a savanna monkey in the forest zone of Côte d'Ivoire, and that was in the Eotile Island National Park. To sum up, as considering our initial goal, we found the white-napped mangabe only in the Dasioko forest and in the Tanwe A forest. We found the runaway guinon only in the Tanwe A forest, and we heard calls of Miss Wadron red colobus in the Tanwe A forest in 2008. Since then, nothing. And while we were doing this survey, the conservation status of a fourth monkey degraded. That's the case of the white-tailed colobus. The white-tailed colobus used to be considered as vulnerable, but in less than 10 years, its status was upgraded from vulnerable to critically endangered, and it has become one of the most endangered primates of West Africa. So we include this in our research, and this monkey was found only in the Sacred Grove in Dinaudi and in the Tanwe A forest. So you can see that most conservation targets were found in the Tanwe A forest. This forest is characterized by a good diversity of primates. We have 9 different species, including 3 critically endangered one and 1 endangered one. This is the white-tailed mangabe, who used to be critically endangered and even classified among the top 25 species endangered in the world. But it started to improve when we discovered a new population in southern Burkina Faso more relatively recently. The Tanwe forest also comprises of primate species, most of them being also threatened, like vulnerable and near threatened. This forest, as you can see here, is the only forest block remaining in the southeastern corner of Côte d'Ivoire. It's surrounded by large open plantations. This forest is the only forest east of the Sassandra River where more than 2 endangered monkeys have survived. Like I said, in some forests you will see maybe the runaway guinon or white-napped mangabe, but not 2 species at the same time, which is the case for the Tanwe A forest where we found all our conservation targets. This is the only forest in Côte d'Ivoire where the runaway guinon may be found in a viable population, and all primates, at least almost all of them, are of conservation concern, 8 out of 9 of them. And finally, this is the only forest where the presence of Miss Wadron's red colobus is still suspected. Our latest chance to rediscover Miss Wadron's red colobus. However, the Tanwe A forest is threatened with poaching, logging, chainsaw mining, small-scale agricultural clearing, and oil palm projects. In this region, you have one of the largest oil palm plantations in the world, but this is not enough. The Tanwe A forest is also threatened by oil palm projects. To the right of the screen, you see a carcass of Miss Wadon red colobus. So the story of this is that when Scott Megro investigated the Tanwe A forest, after 1 week or 10 days in the forest, he started to doubt the sales of poachers who would say that the monkey was still there. And then he published that this monkey should be considered as probably extinct. These poachers got frustrated and decided to kill one individual and show him what he's talking about. So this is the story of this only photo of the carcass of Miss Wadron's red colobus, and that monkey was killed in the Tanwe A forest in 2000 or so. Considering the biological, ecological, and socio-economic importance of the Tanwe A forest, and considering the threats posed to that forest, we decided to initiate a community-based conservation project since September 2006. This project aims to conserve 4 of the most endangered primates of Africa and sympatric species. These monkeys and their historical distribution range, like I said, have not been the focus of any conservation project before us. This project is also viewed as an example of how communities can play major roles in conservation activities combined with local development. So the most endangered primates of West Africa are the runaway guinon, the white-napped mangabe, the Jofra black and white colobus, and Miss Wadron's red colobus. Why a community-based conservation approach? There have been many measures implemented in Côte d'Ivoire, but their success is kind of mitigated. And we hypothesize that this is due to the exclusion of local communities from decision-making and implementation of conservation measures. So first, Côte d'Ivoire itself has been adjusting its conservation policies, putting now emphasis on community empowerment. Our community-based conservation project of the Tanwe A forest has several components. The first one is transdisciplinary research. So we do biological research, we do anthropological research, environmental economics, and social sciences research in this country to have, in this region, to have a good understanding of ecological and socio-economic factors prevailing. The second component is awareness raising. So we use different approaches to raise awareness, and we try to make sure that people are not bored. So we diversify our approaches every year. Another component, the third one, is community organization and capacity building. It is important for us, for communities to be really empowered, to be skilled and engaged. So we train farmers, women, and eco-guards. We converted former poachers to eco-guards, and they do now surveillance and biomonitoring, sometimes independently, autonomously, sometimes in collaboration with governmental rangers from Côte d'Ivoire or from Ghana, neighboring Ghana. Another component is support to the forest designation process. So we supported local communities by doing forest demarcation by unofficial geometricians, and we did everything requested for the forest to be designated as a protected forest, a community reserve, which was achieved in December 2021. And the last component is support to local development by improving access to safe water and also by promoting alternative livelihoods, including the development of value chains in cassava and the promotion of agroforestry. So in terms of agroforestry, we introduced more than 36,000 trees in farmlands, and we've been improving cassava production and cassava processing by groups of women, and this is a very rewarding activity that is appreciated by local communities. Since 2019, we've been intensifying the search for Miss Wadron red colobus by doing recce, transect, treetop camera trapping. We also use environmental DNA and insect DNA recently, and we also use drones to try to rediscover Miss Wadron's red corobus. Some highlights. We focus on the observation of the principles of good governance, of good forest governance, which are 5 principles. The first one is define membership and geographic area. So we work with 11 different villages and our intervention area is well defined. We also use legitimate and recognized structures. So in all the villages, we created what we call associations entrusted with conservation and development. So this association put together all the forces of the village, including the youth, the women, and the seniors. And the first principle is institutional mechanism to enable decision-making. So decision-making would follow different processes. Situational analysis is done from the bottom to the top, so from village level to district level, and decisions are made from the top to down, where implementation is done at village level. These decision-making processes are clear. And the fourth principle of good forest governance is devolving responsibility and rights to local communities. We are talking about community empowerment, so we give them the responsibility of the management of their natural heritage, and they have the right to do things like fisheries, things like collection, harvest of non-timber forest products. And finally, the fifth principle is long-term sustainability, which comprises capacity building, but also diversification of funding sources, long-term funding sources. We done some activism, like when we had to stop an alpine project in 2008, 2009. So we've been active everywhere, nationally and internationally. And more recently, we had to also stop a gold mining project at the periphery of the forest. We also try to develop synergies with Ghanaian stakeholders because this forest is very close to Ghana. The border is just the Tanwe River. In this photo to the right, we are standing in Ghana, and there you have the Tanwe River, and at the other side of the Tanwe River, you have the Tanwe A forest, where there's no Ivorian village. So Ghanaians can cross easily with this kind of boats, go into the Tanwe A forest, cut trees, and come back to Ghana. So we were there and we saw a boat coming with planks, and the Ghanaian stakeholders, I mean the Ghanaian customs, just closed their eyes on this, saying it's not coming from Ghana, which is not normal. I'll come back to this. Another highlight is our international recognition. So we've been invited to a World Park Congress in 2014 in Sydney, together with 22 African champions, and I give not less than 5 oral presentations. And our experience has been documented in a book published by IUCN about 22 stories of conservation success in Africa. Our experience has also been highlighted by the IUCN Panorama Solution for a Healthy Planet. We received several international awards that have been mentioned by Professor Ngolo, including the Future for Nature Awards, and more recently, the Rolex Award for Enterprise. Why all these awards? Because we can say that we are somehow successful. The forest has been designated as a community forest, as a community reserve in 2021. We managed to reduce threats. We are managing to save this forest, to really protect this forest. The forest is under satellite surveillance since January 2022, but no confirmed deforestation alert was made. Despite Kenso mining that we observe here and there, it's not big enough to be detected by satellites. And bushmeat is very rare in our project intervention area. A sign of this is that focal species are thriving. We can see more and more primates at the periphery of the forest. And we discovered 2 species of frogs in the Tanwe A forest recently. The carbon stock of the forest is also increasing. So here you have the carbon stock in 2000, and here the carbon stock in 2023. So you may observe that this map is becoming more and more dark, which is a sign that the carbon stock is increasing. So if you look at this area carefully, you can see it's becoming darker. Same for this area and same for this one. So we are improving the carbon stocks. This forest stocks at least 2 million of tons of carbon every year. The project is rewarding to communities because we've been fostering community engagement. People feel valued and they are changing their attitude towards conservation. We can see the growth of local champions, local leaders who try to impress conservation measures in the region. And we've been diversifying their income sources and even increasing them by supporting alternative livelihoods and developing value chains. On the long term, our project will contribute to the resilience of farming system because we are introducing trees in farmlands, which will contribute to the resilience of farming system and which will also bring new sources of income through the exploitation of non-timber forest product and the selling of carbon credits. What makes it work? We've been valuing traditional knowledge system and values in our modern context. We are empathetic, we are flexible, and we are patient with communities, and we are trying to also develop long-term funding mechanisms. These are key to the success of such an initiative. And the key component that leads to success is research, feeding action, and vice versa in an iterative process. Every action we take is informed by research results, and every action we take inspires new research. Our research will inform our conservation measures by highlighting the biological value of the forest. So we do several types of research, ecological research, to highlight the conservation value of the forest. And the results show that the forest is rich indeed with critically endangered species, or at least with species of conservation concern. Not only just with primates, but also with birds, amphibians, fishes, and plants. The socio-economic dimension of the value of the forest has also been highlighted by different types of research, so socio-economic research, and also environmental economics research to develop cost and benefits of conservation, for instance. And this highlighted that the forest resources are used on a daily basis for medicinal plants, for wood, for firewood, construction, manufacturing, and so on. So very important for the economic activities of the region, and also very important for cultural practices. So for instance, there is a link with one of the critically endangered monkeys, the features of which should be used for important rituals in case of violation of some bans, for instance. I can come back to this in the discussion. And finally, we can demonstrate that the forest is important for agriculture and fisheries. So fishes, for instance, can reproduce in the roots of plants that are close to the water stream. So how does research inform action? This can be modeled through this. So to the left, you have different conservation actions, so surveillance, awareness raising, support to alternative livelihoods. And here you have different types of research that can inform surveillance, awareness raising, and support to alternative livelihoods. And here you have a kind of application of this. So for instance, talking about surveillance, when you do, I would say wildlife service or ecological service, you can also study the distribution and density of threats. And this will lead you to better organize surveillance. So that will be the application. And as a final outcome, the threats will be reduced on the forest. The same applies to fostering social engagement. The drivers of this are considering individual and collective aspirations, considering local value systems, and promoting incomes. Here again, different studies can inform how you take all these key parameters into account, and here how you apply the findings and the outcomes of this. This can be summed up in this model. So I won't comment all the figures. So in yellow, you have the different types of studies that can be done. In blue, you have the outputs of this, and in green, you have the outcomes. So if I take the case of a study of ecosystem services, when you study ecosystem services, you generate, I would say, knowledge that can be used for awareness raising. This awareness raising will lead to change of behavior, will also lead to social mobilization. And social mobilization and change of behavior will lead to the conservation of a system, of the Tanwe A forest. If I take the case of the study of logics, when you study these logics, you know which approaches and which interlocutors to interact with. You don't make a wrong choice of interlocutors and approaches. And when you do that, it leads to social mobilization leading to change of behaviors, changes of behavior leading to the conservation of the system. So we have documented here how research can be used to empower local communities and to achieve conservation goals. And this model can be applied to any type of protected area, whether a community forest, a national, I would say, a national park, or any types of conservation system. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Yeah, thank you very much to talk like one of my Zimbabwean friends called Abisha. Thank you for this mammoth and fabulous presentation, Professor Inza Koné. Yeah, I think all of you learned a lot like me. It was really nice. Now, with your permission, dear Petra, I think we can open now the question and answer session. So for those who want to ask a question, you can raise your hand or even post the question in the chat. Okay, and Professor Koné will try to answer your different questions if possible.
I think we already
so dear
collected.
Participants, the floor is now for your questions.
Yeah, unfortunately the participants are muted, but there are already some questions in the chat, and of course everybody is invited to ask questions via the chat.
Okay. In the chat.
Can you see them? Otherwise, I also can read them.
Yeah, I can see the first questions. Yeah, please. Yeah, the first. I think this is a suggestion. Please, can I get the presentation in PDF form via my email address after the ending of the information? Community Empower for Forest Conservation. Okay. The title, you found the title good. From Hannah, I think if I get the consent of Prof. Koné, yeah, for the presentation in PDF. Now, please post your question in the chat. Hello, is there anyone working on the conservation? Is there anyone working on the conservation of ethno-hawks and having a running project? Prof. Koné.
On what?
Hedgehogs. I don't know what is it. ad hocs. That is from Aksha. Aksha, please, what is ad hocs? Can you?
It's another animal that maybe does not exist in Côte d'Ivoire. But,
yeah, in Côte d'Ivoire, maybe.
Okay.
Perhaps the other participants can answer him or her if they have any projects. So I think we can go with a question from
of that, but the principles, the same principle can be applied to any animal, any types of ecosystem.
Yeah. So now a question from one of the co-PI of the DAAD Center, Professor Christian Burgermeister. How do you ensure the integrity of the Tanoe-Ili forest against agricultural infiltration? Are there chances for co-benefiting agents population from economics revenue on the park? How do you ensure the integrity of the park against agricultural infiltration?
Okay.
Is there any chance of co-benefiting with the population?
Yes, absolutely. One thing is that this forest is kind of naturally protected because it's a swampy forest. I didn't mention that, but it is a swampy forest. It's very hard to practice. So for people to be able to practice agriculture, they can do just small agricultural clearings here and there on less than 1 hectare here or there. The most dangerous people would be, I would say, industrial companies, like it was the case in 2008. That was a big international industrial company which came with technology from Malaysia to drain the forest, and they came with the technological means to really drain the forest and convert it in oil palm. And we had to fight against this. Besides that, other threats would be chainsaw mining, or I would say poaching. And to combat these threats, this is everything we do. We do law enforcement. So we do surveillance by former poachers. We do surveillance in collaboration with forest guard. We do also awareness raising, and we bring alternative livelihood to communities so that they have the choice not to destroy the forest. And by building capacities, local capacities, and so on, and we get to all this. The co-benefits are many because we are used to answering this question. Some people would be saying, okay, we support your conservation initiative, but what do we gain from this? Because they are not getting salaries, so they think they are not benefiting from the forest. But the answer is very simple. We go into rhetorics. We ask them, what is your main economic activity? We say agriculture or fishery. Okay. Would agriculture work without rainfall? No. Will it be enough rainfall without forest? No. So do you benefit from the presence of the forest? Say, yes. So everyone benefits from the presence of the forest. It brings, I would say, appropriate climate to agriculture and to fisheries. It brings, I would say, it reduces the incidence of airborne diseases. It reduces the incidence of natural disasters like floods and so on. If you lose this forest absorbing huge amounts of water every year, this water will be flooded in the villages. Already without that, there's one village, you certainly saw that quickly on one of the pictures, which is inundated during the rain season in general, without even the destruction of the forest. Imagine if the forest is no more there. So it will be the entire region that will be flooded, including plantation and so on. So the co-benefits are many, and we still document them.
Okay, Prof. Koné, thank you very much. The Tanoe National Park is playing very important ecosystem services for the region. And as you said, the co-benefits are really main. Now, someone, Marlon is asking, I say that he has missed the slide. May we please see the conceptual framework of the study and the data analysis used? Yeah, I'm not sure that, okay, I'm not sure that Professor Inza Koné presented data analysis or something like that. It was a general presentation on community-based conservation.
Yeah,
but you can answer the question.
Yeah, no problem. We have a conceptual framework for sure, or a theory of change. So we have that. So it's a series of activities, I would say targeted activities that will enable long-term impact on the conservation of the system. So the model that I presented lastly is close to our conceptual framework. But like you said, we presented, I would say, a combination of research of a result of several research activities, several PhD studies, several postdoc studies. So in just 30 minutes, I couldn't enter in the detail of them. But I almost entered into the detail of the intensification of research for Miss-Wadden red colonies. So I said we use a combination of techniques, including classical techniques like Rickies, like transect, but also modern technologies like tree-top camera trapping. If I have to go into the detail, I have to say how many cameras did we use, for how many times, in which regions. So yeah, we don't have to enter into these details. We also use environmental DNA, consisting in sampling water from different zones of the forest. The principle being that if Miss-Wadden colobus is there or any other mammal is there, they will urinate or I would say drop feces in the water. And if you collect the water and do DNA analysis, it should reveal the presence of different animals. And it works for most primates that are already confirmed. So until now, we haven't seen any sign of Miss-Wadden, so DNA. We did the same for insect DNA. So consisting in catching carrion flies from different zones of the forest, once again, blending these flies and doing DNA. The principle is that when flies get in touch with the wounds of the mammal, for instance, it will be contaminated by the DNA of that mammal. So if you catch this fly and do DNA analysis, it can reveal the presence of different species. Once again, it works for all the confirmed primates, but no sign of Miss-Wadden red colobus so far. So yeah, these are the kind of things that I can describe quickly. Talking about environmental economic surveys, how do we proceed? Yeah, there are different techniques that are used. For instance, question people about what the value in the forest, their willingness to pay for the services rendered by the forest and so on. This gives you an idea of, I would say, the cost and benefits of conservation. So yeah, maybe the person who asked the question can mention a specific type of study is interested in, and we can discuss the methods of this study.
Thank you, Prof. One of the house participants is also asking if you are involving the traditional authorities and religious groups in the conservation of the forest, like via a sort of declaration of forest sacrée, something like that.
Maybe not like suggested, but I mentioned that we really value traditional knowledge systems. We really value that. We comply to traditional regulation. Even recently, we supported the local communities to do a ritual inside the forest because they said this is an annual report that is important for the protection of the village and so on. And I can even tell an anecdote about this. Once we went in the forest, when we were starting to intensify the search of Miss-Wadden red colobus, we went there with a big team of more than 30 people, dividing them into several groups. And the principle is that after 10 days of surveys, everybody goes out and we do a debriefing, and then we go back for another round of 10 days and so on. When we did the first one, no sign of Miss-Wadden, all the other primates were there. But people were saying things like, these guys, do they think that they can see this valuable primate like this without even doing the rituals? When we heard that, we said, okay, we missed something. So let's do the rituals. In one of the slides, you saw an old man pouring water. It was not water, it was alcohol in a water stream. That was a ritual that we had to do before going back to the forest. And when we observed this ritual, the first day we entered back in the forest, we held course of Miss Red economics. Since then, we really value traditional knowledge systems, and we also value the knowledge of these former poachers that we converted. Some of them have, I would say, deep knowledge of primate behavior and primate ecology that even, I would say, the most skilled professors at university don't have. I'm telling you.
Okay. Now, is there any ecotourism in the Tanwe Ili parks?
Ecotourism?
Yeah.
There is a potential to develop this because it's surrounded by water, like you can see, by either the Ei Lagoon or the Tanwe River. So we have many, what do you say, water birds? Yeah, anyway. Yeah. And it's a good site for migratory birds as well. Even manatees have been reported to occur in the Ei Lagoon because it's not very salty. It's not salty at all. It's a lagoon, but not salty at all. So manatees occur there. So there are things to see just by navigating on the Ei Lagoon or the Tanwe River. So we are doing some feasibility studies about, because I've been elsewhere in very popular sites where we did a tour on a boat just for 30 minutes. I promise you that we didn't see anything extraordinary, but this is a key. I can even cite the country. That was in DSC. A 30-minute tour just on the Congo River was supposed to be fascinating, but we didn't see anything extraordinary. You can see much more if you navigate on the Ei Lagoon or the Tanwe River. For those who are not adventurous, if you lack adventure, then you can dare to step down in this swampy forest and move maybe a few kilometers. You'll be fascinated, you'll be marked by this experience.
Now, another one is asking about the community engagement strategy when facing a kind of objection from local farmers. Like when facing objections concerning your strategy, what is your reaction?
It is absolutely their right. So from the beginning, we started by, I would say, a situational analysis, by understanding local social systems in the region, by understanding their value, decision-making processes, their aspiration, and so on. And it is from the sales of the community that we decided to go in the direction of conservation, because we said that they really knew that this is the only forest remaining in the region, the only chance for current and future generations to see some wildlife species and so on, the only chance for them, for their agriculture to be resilient and so on. They knew the value of the forest. And they felt maybe powerless in terms of conserving because they thought that this forest used to belong to an open company, which was not the case, because it used to belong indeed to a governmental open company, but this company has been privatized in 1996. A private company could not inherit a non-exploited forest. When we brought this information back to the community, they said, well, then help us protect our natural heritage. And this is what we've been doing. It's not to say that everything went smooth from then until today. Of course, there will be resistance. And that's why we study the logics of people. You may have individual logics and you may have collective logics. Those who have individual logic, because they think that they can have an opportunity to make money or to gain in power, in social rank and so on, maybe kind of disappointed somehow and become reluctant to continue the adventure with you. Some may have the economic, I would say, logic. It's much more rewarding if we cut this forest and replace it by oil palm, then we create thousands of jobs, we do that. And so there are all these logics, and we take this into account, and we've been building local capacities. We've been talking the language of sustainability. And one of our reasons to be proud is that we managed to create a critical mass of people in all the intervention villages who have really understood the concept of sustainability and who know that sustainability will go through the maintenance of their natural capital, which is key to any sustainability scheme. But I've really understood that, and from there, from this critical mass, we try to build more and around this to have more and more people on board. So yeah, so finally, we are not imposing anything to people. We have them understand what should be beneficial to them and to the future generation. And once they are really engaged, and we have this strong engagement from all the chiefs of villages, which is very important in this kind of region where people value the power of traditional chiefs. We have a strong engagement of traditional chiefs. So from there, I would say almost nothing can stop us.
Thank you, Prof. I think the next question is somehow related to the question you just answered. The guy is asking about the question about promoting and attracting the trust of the public at the very first step of the work. Because in general, as you said at the beginning, it's really difficult to have the attention of the different people of the community.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? You want to know how you did during the first step of the project.
Yes, I mentioned this maybe very quickly. So I said that we did situational analysis. We use these tools that are used by social scientists to describe the social system, the ecological environment. You've certainly heard about rapid assessment methods. So we use different tools like the historical scheme, like I would say individual interviews, and also group interviews, so focus groups and so on. By talking with people in relatively homogeneous groups, so women together, the youth together, and the seniors, and so on. So from there, we had an understanding of the social systems, the ecological features of the region, the ecological constraints, the aspirations of the people, and so on. We did that once people had understood that the forest is their ownership and they have to decide about its fate. So going from there, through the picture that they would draw themselves about what needs to be done, what they need as support and so on, we decided then to support them, and we went in this direction of creating a community reserve, not a national park. We could have arguments to plea for this system to be designated as a national park because of the value of it. But we didn't go in this direction because, like I said in my speech, anyway, conservation measures have mitigated success because people don't empower local communities enough. So we wanted to experience this, empowering local communities to be at the front line of the conservation of the natural heritage. And I can tell you, even the authority at the Ministry of Environment were skeptical. Can communities really decide what to do? Can they really elaborate management rules and so on? We just said, just observe us. And we had, people that were skilled in community engagement. So we let them give the floor to communities, for communities to express their willingness and their how. And everyone was really fascinated by what came from this workshop organized by communities. And it's there that our project started in 2006.
Thank you, Prof. Yeah, they told us that the hedgehogs is in French hérisson. They were talking about hérisson.
Ah.
I saw one working on hérisson. Yeah, we know hérisson in Côte d'Ivoire. We also have hérisson in West Africa, in Côte d'Ivoire. So there is Umer wanted that we unmute his mic. I tried to see his name in the list, but in vain. Now, please, I would like to kindly know how the percentage of deforestation attributed to agricultural intrusion quantified. How did you quantify the agricultural intrusion?
Agricultural drive?
No, intrusion. Intrusion, yeah.
In the Tanwe forest.
Yeah.
In the Tanwe forest, we don't have any more agricultural intrusion. So when we were starting the project, some people were farming here and there, like I said, but only very small surfaces because it's a swampy forest. So we have very few dry places that people can exploit for agriculture. So the maximum would be 1 hectare in a row, for instance. So we combated this very quickly. This is useless, and people understood that this is useless, and they abandoned that. But now the threat was by industrial companies who would have the means to drain the forest and convert it to alpine plantation, for instance. The other threat was about logging, but we are talking about agriculture. So agricultural intrusion would come from industrial companies, but we combated the biggest of them in 2008 successfully. Since then, I don't think they will dare to come back in this region. So agriculture is not a threat at all at the moment inside the forest. But agriculture is practiced at the periphery until 0 meters from the forest. And this can become problematic because if monkeys now are getting more and more outside the forest, there will be human-wildlife conflicts. So we have to watch this very carefully and to see how we can mitigate this. Otherwise, like I said, agriculture is not a problem. Our main problem would be chainsaw milling. Even poaching is not a big problem at the moment. But chainsaw milling is problematic because it occurs in a zone where we have no Ivorian village. And people just cross the Tano River from Ghana and they can catch trees. And it's difficult for us to organize surveys because when you come from far on a boat, they have indicators that tell me, these people are coming, and people have the time to leave the forest quickly before we get there or before our forest agents get there. So recently we decided to build surveillance teams in these areas. I think we'll start using them very soon so that there are permanent surveillance teams in these areas to mitigate this threat.
Okay, so one is talking about the money, the core of funding in order to run the project, in order to run the organization, and also sensitize communities and the way you use to sensitize communities. Are you giving them money, giving them jobs, what kind of job, etc.? Yeah.
Okay. So what we did, I mentioned community organization and capacity building. So there is an organizational scheme that have been adopted by community themselves. This is a pyramidal scheme going from village level to district level. So we have 11 different villages, and these villages belong to 3 different districts, sous-prefecture in French. So they belong to 3 different districts, and there is a federation. So at village level, we have associations, so including poachers, farmers, women, and so on, who are entrusted with conservation and development action at village level. And the villages of each district will have a kind of inter-village, I would say, body, so a parliament association coordinating the action of the villages of the district. So this is the coordination body. And the coordination bodies also gather to form a federation at the top. The federation will be where we make decisions, actually. So situational analysis is done at village levels. We need this, we are faced with this, and so on. We need to do that. The information goes to the district level, and then from the district level to the federation. The federation, who is our interlocutor, will say, can we be supported financially and technically to support this community from this district and so on? So depending on our means, we do an arbitration and make decision what can be done with which means. So what we do, because we're talking about community empowerment, so we give the money to the federation. The money goes with an action plan. So this money is aimed at doing this or this activity. It can be surveillance, can be awareness raising, So we have a budget. So you have to do that. So the federation gives the money to the parliament organization at district level, and then the money goes to the village that wants to do the activity. When the activity is done, reports are also written and go back the reverse way. And we won't give additional money until we have the financial and technical report of the previous activities. So we try to teach them rigor. We try to teach them how to comply to a budget, how to comply to an operational plan. And it's only when this is successful that we shift to another activity and so on. If I fail in doing that for too long, then we come to the field ourselves and do some activities, because we cannot wait too long to resume some activities. So we train them, we show them their failures, and we give the example. And then when they learn from this example, the next time when we give them the money, they comply to our rules.
Thank you, Prof. Another question, very important question. It started by asking the rate of the population growth in this area. And now the question is, can the population growth harm the plan in place in terms of conservation of the park? So the relationship between the conservation that we are doing now and the population growth of the area.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons why we are promoting agroforestry, because the pressure on the forest will certainly increase with population growth, because people need forest resources to do construction, to exploit non-timber forest products for different things and so on. They need forest resources. We can regulate this, but if the population grow, I would say reaches a certain stage, it can be difficult to make this exploitation of forest resources sustainable. So we need to anticipate on this by introducing farmland, these resources that people need from the forest. We reintroduce them in farmlands. That will have many co-benefits, including, I would say, enhancing the resilience of farmlands, but also mitigating the threats to the forest, because people will then have the resources that they need in their farmlands. Those who started with this program in 2015 are already, I would say, harvesting products like fruits from the trees that they planted in their farmlands. And these trees can also, these fruits can also be exploited for different manufacturers and so on. So there is a potential that people see. They see examples of the pioneers, and this creates, I would say, a new enthusiasm for agroforestry. And the goal is just that, to be able to anticipate on population growth and its impact on forest resources.
Okay,
I have to interrupt. Unfortunately, we are unfortunately running a bit out of time. There are a lot of questions left, but I think we have like time for one last question and one short answer before we have to close today. So I would like to give the floor to you again for the last question and answer. We unfortunately could not answer all questions in the chat, but the lecture has been very interesting. And as you see, the discussion is, all the discussants are all really interested also in the topic as well.
Okay, so, one of the main questions is from Marie-Ange. I think she said that the project will celebrate soon its 20th anniversary. So what are the prospects and what are the main challenges to date that could compromise the achievement of the long-term objective of the project? I think this is a very interesting question.
Yeah, it is. Yes, indeed. In 2026, we'll celebrate our 20th anniversary. In 20 years, many things have been done, many successes have been achieved. But what led you to a success today might not be enough to remain at this level or to grow. we are aware of this, and we know that we have to tackle our challenges now. The biggest challenge would be, I would say, fundraising. Finances are key to sustainability, are key to impact, and so on. We haven't found yet a long-term funding mechanism like the selling of carbon credits. We are prepared to that. So we worked on our preparedness. We are just waiting for the legal and institutional framework to be developed for Côte d'Ivoire. Otherwise, we have already partners ready to accompany us to explore this way. The other way would be to diversify our long-term partnerships. We have long-term partnership with a couple of associations, including some European zoos and so on. That contributes to the core funding of the project, maybe to 30% of the core funding of the project for the moment, and the rest of the money is raised on competitive funds by submitting projects to different donors. So we can certainly convince another organization to be part of this long-term partnership, even by bringing 5,000 euros per year, 10,000 euros. It is something important. So yeah, we're working on all these mechanisms for us to be, I would say, not worried about funding in the future.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Koné. I think that some people are also advising you to try to find a way of a very important intervention of the government at the high level. Maybe that can be like help you in terms of funding this project and also helpful for the sustainability of the project. Yeah. Now I will give the floor to Petra for the acknowledged words and also the closing word of this lecture series of DAAD.
Yeah, thank you, Ngolo, and also thank you again to Professor Koné for the lecture today. It was really interesting. As we saw, like we had around 130, 140 participants, so a lot of people are interested in the topic, and the discussion was also very lively. Thank you to all the participants as well for engaging in the discussion. We will publish the video and the recording of the lecture on our website. Thank you for allowing us to do that as well. And let me say a few words on the upcoming program of the DAAD lecture series in the future, within the next weeks and months. We would be delighted to welcome you all back again to the upcoming sessions, and the speakers of the upcoming sessions reflect the diverse areas of work and the regional focus of the DAAD centers as well. And the next lecture will be given on June 24th by Professor Edumati Nambi from the Civil Engineering Department at Indian Institute of Technology in Madras. And she will talk about translating innovations to startups in the water sector, its challenges and opportunities. And we are very much looking forward to seeing you there and hope you have a nice day today. So thank you once again for the event today, and hope to see you soon again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.